Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 133 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on May 7th, 2018.
Hi, I'm Liberal Tim. I am a lover of cheese, a liberal, husband and father of three, a sports shooter, and the owner and operator of Tim's Good T-shirts. They're quite good.
I'm Marty, hunter and sport shooter in rural southern Ontario.
I'm Gavin, a business owner, gun enthusiast, hunter, atheist, and CCFR field officer for the GTA.
As always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, a competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical.
And we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
You can check the podcast out on social media. Go to Facebook or Instagram. Both cases, it's /Canadian Patriot Podcast. We're really easy to find. Type that crap into Google and we'll probably show up.
We need your help to support the show. Visit www.patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get the uncensored audio version of the show for just $1 per episode. And the more you pledge, the better the rewards are. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Go to the homepage and follow the link on the right.
Just on that topic, before we move into the rest of the show, Chris W. is listening live on YouTube right now. And Chris is getting a t-shirt, but Chris didn't buy his t-shirt. Tim is going to make him one because he's a $5 a month Patreon. So if you want to give us that's not right, $5 a week, $5 an episode Patreon, because we do this every week, although it feels like something different. Chris gave us $5 an episode. Chris gets a t-shirt. Tim's Good T-shirts is going to make the t-shirt. It's going to be quite good.
The better the rewards are.
Yeah.
That's a better reward.
Yeah, that reward is quite good.
It's like you pay for something and you can get it.
Hey, Benny's here. Benny, why don't you do your intro?
Hi, I'm Benny. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I'm a shooter, and someday, hopefully soon, a hunter.
I thought you were going to say Sunday, but that would also
too
be funny.
Well, as long as it's not on Saturday.
Exactly.
All right. Before we do, what are we drinking? Every week, what are we drinking is brought to us by Arrowhead Coffee. Arrowhead Coffee is owned and operated by Canadian Armed Forces veterans. They love our country, the true north, strong and free, their family and friends. Join Arrowhead Coffee on their hunt for the perfect brew to raise morale and bring that feeling of home to you no matter where you are. A portion of all profits helps Canadian Armed Forces members, veterans, and their families. All right, that brings us into my favorite part of the episode. What are we drinking? It's where I ask, what are you drinking? Gavin, what are you drinking?
I'm being super lame again this week. I'm just drinking water because I got a wicked headache. So.
Oh my God, he's dying.
But for all you water,
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water. They turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Now you're upsetting
it's not
Alex.
reverse osmosis. It's just regular water put through a Brita filter.
Just swamp water.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right from Ottawa.
Yeah. Right from the canal.
It's old ice rink water.
It's probably not from 24 Sussex Drive, unless you went to the kitchen.
Yeah.
See, that's foreshadowing for later.
Yeah, I had it shipped in.
Now, did you use Uber, taxi, or private helicopter to get that water in from 24 Sussex?
All of the above. The most expensive way possible.
Well, yeah, because you have to stagger it so you always have water, right? You can't just have one shipment. That would make too much sense.
Submarine. It had to take the long way.
Yeah.
Excellent. Marty, what are you drinking?
Crown Maple and Zevia.
Enlighten me. What is a Zevia?
It's that
know.
virus that you get that makes your baby's heads really small.
Exactly. It's just it's a Coke Zero alternative. It's kind of not as good.
Where's that Zitka?
Benny, what are you drinking?
What about a Zima? Has anyone had one of those lately?
I'm drinking Ozem chicken soup flavor mix. That was there we go. Because I'm at work, so can't be doing anything.
Drink.
Everyone
has a weird drink tonight. All right, Tim, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Rickard's Red tonight.
Good stuff. How many pints have you had?
I'm on my 4th.
Well done, sir. This is going to be good. I'm drinking Crown Royal Maple because I haven't got wrecked since Friday. So let's do some whiskey. It'll be good.
Do you want to take a 3-minute sea shanty break? We'll sing a sea shanty.
Yes. I feel like yes is the only answer to the question.
So we're going to start with Barrett's Privateers then, right?
Is that count as a sea shanty?
Yes.
Yeah, again, I feel like yes is the right answer, but I don't have any like.
Of course we are.
Way of judging this. Somewhere there's one listener in Newfoundland yelling at us.
Yeah. Somewhere else, or somebody complaining they paid $5 for this shit.
This is a value for value exchange. They didn't pay for anything. They voluntarily donated their funds. I need to say that because of tax consequences. This is not a paid for service. It is a donation.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the news. We got a pretty full deck tonight. Lots of stuff from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. We're going to start with a job placement program for veterans that was audited and found to be less than successful. So the CBC article is job placement program for veterans was a flop, audit finds. This is from May the 3rd. More than 3,000 veterans applied for coverage and only 40 received any funding. The funding is a 2012 program that was implemented by the Conservative government, where veterans were being awarded up to $1,000 apiece to cover costs incurred through career counseling, resume writing, and job placement support. Veterans Affairs Canada produced an audit in 2016 and found that they weren't actually giving anyone money. Well, that they gave out only 40 people money. Yay! Go Veterans Affairs.
I like the little subtitle halfway down the article. It says, "Program's failure was shocking." It's like, no, it wasn't.
Was it, though?
It's just,
Yeah.
No one could have predicted this.
government fails.
Well, so there are some interesting things with that, like the fact that this is not their first program, and the fact that none of the agencies the government had previously contracted were required to produce any sort of metrics or reporting about the services that they were providing to forces members that were transitioning to civilian life. So the government was literally just giving away money with no way to track how it was being spent.
Yeah, government.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I bet you they didn't do two key things. Where, like, one, I bet they didn't talk to veterans trying to get work, and two, I bet they didn't talk to businesses who were looking for people to hire. So why would you ask questions?
It's okay. They're going to give it to a different business to administer now. So instead of Veterans Affairs administering this, they're going to have Veterans Affairs contract this work to a third-party private corporation. That'll probably fix it.
Is it the McCain family?
No, it's some Ottawa job placement firm. Pardon me, not Ottawa, Oshawa. Agilic, I think, is the name of the place.
That's like the Guelph of Eastern Ontario.
Yeah, it's pretty lame. I don't know. I'm a little torn about that. Like, Veterans Affairs probably shouldn't be spending this money, but if they're going to spend it, this is not a good way to spend it. My primary, or I guess my chief complaint about this is that it is not the responsibility of the military to prepare veterans for the transition to the civilian world. So putting this on Veterans Affairs to make them responsible for this, it kind of seems like it was doomed to fail from the beginning. Right?
So,
like,
Andrew, who do you think would be responsible for something like this? If do you think anyone has responsibility for something like this?
Yes, the individual member.
Okay.
If you're in the Canadian military for any length of time, especially if you're a non-commissioned officer or particularly an officer, I can see with some of the junior ranks this being a problem. But if you're you've been in 5 years and you've made master corporal, or you went in through an officer entry program and you're an officer in one of the branches of the military, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to write down what your skills are and get a job when you get out and plan for that. Because the military, while it does not pay amazingly well, you shouldn't be leaving the military with no money. And $1,000 really, that's probably not the thing that's going to be like, all right, I now have a career for life because the government gave me $1,000 to write a better resume. No, you leave the military, you know how to write an operations order. You know how to showcase your skills. If you're a senior NCO or an officer, you know how to mentor and provide training to subordinates. Like, these are all skills that members already have. The military, in my opinion, shouldn't be providing this service to members that are transitioning out. Yeah, maybe.
What business pays their employees to leave and do a career change?
So I can see, and this is where I was coming from. For example, in the Israeli Defense Force, they have a class afterwards, which is different, and I'll explain why it is different. Where they have a class afterwards, basically explaining to people coming out of the army, okay, now you're going to civilian life. This is what things are going to be like. This is what you have to, be aware of, because it's a different environment when you're in the military versus civilian life. Albeit in Israel, everyone's going through the army and then everyone's coming out of it. It's basically like having a short, this is how you do your, actually it's more about this is how you do your taxes kind of thing. And like that kind of basic stuff that
I am all for having a class on that.
That you guys always complain that no one talks about it in high school. So they do have something like that when you're finishing the IDF, because also Israel's known for its red tape. So how to deal with the government, how to do everyday stuff that until then you've basically been a teenager, college kid kind of thing. Everything's taken care of for you, and now you're being shoved out. Now you're on your own kind of thing. So that would be helpful. But you're like, that's where my question was coming from. But with Canadians, I don't know how many of them are coming straight out of high school and don't have what to lean on. And specifically, like you said, the skills that you get out of this program may or may not would not fall under the category of the kind of things that I was just describing.
So don't get me wrong, if our military offered that, like, well, as people are nearing the end of their service, there is, some sort of like exit program that they went through, fine. But I don't think that it's necessarily an obligation. That would be a good program to have, and that would probably, be beneficial to people as they leave. But I don't think that's, a requirement of our Veterans Affairs to provide that. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
So the way I would view it as this, if they do feel the obligation, then they should be providing it to everyone, not just the 300 people who applied for it, and the 40 people who actually received it. It should be something that's, hey, I'm leaving the army in a month. Now I got to start doing my paperwork to leave. Oh, I got all these courses I got to accomplish or attend.
So
that's what I mean. Like, if there was this, I was gonna say, like, that was sort of what I was saying. Like, if they had like a program as people leave, there was like an exit program you kind of went through as that taught some of these basic life skills to help that transition. Like, yeah, I think that'd be a good thing. But I just don't think that it's like necessarily a requirement, because in any other industry, as you move from, if you're making a career change, that's your responsibility. Like, you're making that choice to make that career change. That's kind of your responsibility to make sure that you have the skills that's required.
Right. And that's what I'm kind of getting at here is I get both sides of this argument. The military is not like every other job out there, but at the same time, the military is not like every other job out there. So giving somebody $1,000 to teach them how to write a resume, probably not an effective use of Veterans Affairs, right? Like there are things that they should actually be doing, and that's probably not it.
Now here's a question. So 40 people got paid $1,000. So
up to $1,000.
How much did this program cost us? Cost the taxpayers?
I bet the advertising alone on this was in the millions.
To then provide up to $40,000 worth of aid to the soldiers, to veterans.
So again, Veterans Affairs
is not reported here, but no, I wish it was. I would love to know how much this cost us to give out up to $40,000.
See, this is the Veterans Affairs Canada is a dysfunctional organization at best. Not that there aren't good people that work for VAC, because I know there are a couple of good people in Veterans Affairs Canada, but as an organization, it's pretty fucking useless. And again, this is like another failing of our government trying to do something that sounds and looks good and then failing miserably because we helped 40 soldiers write resumes.
And if anyone's paying attention to the points, this was a conservative program, was it not?
It was a conservative program.
Yeah, it's one of those things that actually helping people doesn't get you votes. Saying that you'll help people gets you votes.
Yeah, and then who cares about the outcome?
Coast for no.
Yeah. What was that drop? I missed that one.
Oh, it's Michelle Rempel saying that's code for no.
Oh.
Again, foreshadowing. I have other things coming. It'll be good. Let's do another one from the Conservative Bashing Corporation. We've got the controversial, conservative-minded coffee company sets up shop in St. Albert. They're talking about St. Albert, Alberta. So their controversial conservative coffee shop they're talking about is the Evan Hafer-owned Black Rifle Coffee Company, which recently relocated from Utah to Texas, if I'm not mistaken. They're an American company. The president, CEO, Evan Hafer, is a former Special Forces. I believe he's a U.S. Army Green Beret, and he later worked for one of the three-letter agencies. They're affiliated with the guys from Article 15 Clothing. Matt Best makes the funny videos, the bikini snap guy.
I feel like
the videos are quite good.
Tim Kennedy might be in there somewhere, but
yep.
I could.
Tim Kennedy is definitely involved with them. I think he's a brand ambassador for Black Rifle. So this is a
pretty good reach, especially with social media and all of that. Like there's a bunch of dudes that are all part of that.
Women want them and men want to be them.
Dude, I wish my jaw was as chiseled as Matt Best's. Also that I could do that bikini snap thing, because that would be super fucking helpful.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
So now this is their controversial company. Is that just because their products are inferior to Arrowhead Coffee?
No, that's just because.
No, but well played, and
writers,
I'm sure the boys in Arrowhead will appreciate it.
Yeah. We have a local version up here. It's but first of all, writers love alliteration. So, and any conservative is controversial.
Yes, conservatism is definitely bad. So. I don't know that Black Rifle Coffee Company is controversial. They have definitely been in some mainstream news exposure in the U.S., particularly following the Starbucks incident last year where Starbucks committed to hiring 10,000 refugees. Starbucks has actually not carried through on that promise for anybody keeping tally of the score at home. But Black Rifle Coffee pledged to hire 10,000 veterans as a result of that.
Yeah.
And while they have also not achieved their 10,000 number, I feel like they're doing a little bit more than Starbucks is. I believe they had to close all of their locations recently for diversity training.
Yeah, so poor Starbucks. They're like a pinata in the wind.
I don't know what that analogy is, but I like it.
They try so hard to please everyone.
Well, then I think Starbucks is adopting the government model where, you say you're going to help people, but then you just don't actually do it.
Yeah.
So I've had the pleasure of speaking with one of the gentlemen that's involved in the St. Albert. I think it's franchise, I think is the right way to describe it. The St. Albert, the Canadian franchise of Black Rifle Coffee. When they started importing coffee into the States late last year, they had a promo going where you could get it for effectively no shipping, because shipping coffee for £1 is silly because it's the same price to ship as the actual coffee is. It is pretty decent coffee, but they are the way that Hafer describes their company is that they're family and community, like they're in support of families, communities, firearms, and conservatism in general.
Yeah, controversial. You said
very controversial.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this company's plan is to open up a shop, hire locals, support local groups. They've already donated over $30,000 to a local charity, and so our national media calls them out as controversial and tries to paint them in a negative light.
It's
Way to go.
important to note that the $30,000 is only something that the Canadian portion of the company has done. The U.S. portion of the company does significantly more philanthropical work, like measured in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But let's keep in mind,
the Canadian is much newer and much smaller at this point as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
yeah. But this is a successful business that's being run in America, and just keep in mind the only reason they need to open up a local one in Canada is to get around the border nonsense. So.
Oh yeah, trying to import the coffee from the States is prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, well,
So them
just
doing this.
throw it out.
So hang on a second. So tariffs work to produce local jobs?
Yes. What I'm saying is, as a result of this, basically everything the CBC has lied to us about in the past is in fact a lie, and this is the proof.
But tariffs create roadblocks and hurdles for businesses, thereby driving up costs, which increases tax revenue.
And yet, several people have been employed in Alberta, and they found a way to raise $30,000 for local charities.
Clearly, these people are monsters.
I think
Obviously.
the government could make more jobs.
I know what it is. Donating money to charity is to offset taxes, so they're not paying their fair share by giving it all away to charities.
Oh my God, they're 1% peoples. Like
That's
Andrew.
what it is. They're Hitler's, all of them.
Yes.
Okay.
That seems reasonable.
More than reasonable.
All right, let's do another one. We've got. I don't particularly like the source, but we're gonna go to brianlilly.com. The carbon tax is sexist. Michelle Rempel pulls Jedi mind tricks on Bill Morneau. I think that Mr. Lilly was maybe a little bit early for the May the 4th jokes, but I'm gonna let it slide. I've got some really good CPAC coverage. We're gonna listen to Michelle Rempel and Bill Morneau talk at 1.5 times normal speed. So if you think Bill sounds a little slow in this, imagine what he sounds like in real life.
Right. What is the relative cost burden of your carbon tax for women as compared to men?
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of your question.
What is the relative cost burden of your carbon tax for women as compared to men?
As you likely know, we believe that for our economy to be successful over the long term, we need to make sure that we're considering also the environmental challenges.
Since you've got to leave, I'll just ask, has a gender-based analysis been completed for the carbon tax?
Again, where I was getting to is that we believe a carbon pricing approach is important, and we've also said that we need to find a way to move that revenue back to the provinces.
So has a gender-based analysis been completed for the carbon tax?
As a revenue neutral measure, you'll understand that we see this as something that's important for the long-term health of our environment.
So has a gender-based analysis been completed for the carbon tax?
And as I mentioned, this is a revenue neutral measure that we see will help our environment over the long term.
I'll ask this a different way. You've talked about the wage gap and these different things. Did you do any modeling? Is the price elasticity of the consumption of carbon the same for women as it is for men in Canada?
As I've said, we believe the carbon price is important. We also believe that this
you also say on page 219 of the budget. You've also said on page 219
to do it properly.
So you've also said on page 219 of the budget that you're putting in place a gender results framework, which is a whole of government tool. So has that tool not been applied to the carbon tax?
And again, I'll repeat, in putting in place carbon pricing, we know it will have a long-term positive impact on the environment for everyone. And it will have an impact, of course, that from the federal government standpoint is revenue.
Could you table the gender-based analysis for the carbon tax with this committee?
I'll just repeat again.
So it hasn't been done?
I will repeat again that carbon pricing from the federal government standpoint is a revenue neutral measure that will, over the long term, encourage behaviors that will help the environment for all Canadians.
You can table the gender-based analysis for the carbon tax with this committee.
What I will tell you is that the approach that we've taken is one that will enable all Canadians to be...
I'll take that as a code for no, and I'll take that as code for it hasn't been done. So my question is, if there's a whole of government approach to gender-based analysis, and you're imposing a brand new tax on all Canadians, and we know that there's a pay equity gap for women, and women bear a disproportionate cost of childcare, why would you not do a gender-based analysis for the carbon tax?
As I've said, we recognize that the way to get to behaviors that are going to ensure that we properly...
Would you say that the carbon tax is sexist? What would you? I mean, has there been a gender-based analysis? I'm just wondering.
As I've mentioned, we put in place the carbon pricing approach in order to deal with long-term environmental impacts.
So if you've done no gender-based analysis for it, and we know that women bear the disproportionate cost of childcare and things like driving kids around and paying for transport and food, I would beg to argue that the carbon tax is sexist. Do you have any evidence to prove otherwise with your gender budget?
As I've said, the federal carbon pricing is one that's revenue neutral from the federal government.
So how can it be revenue neutral for women if you haven't done a gender budget for it?
I can just tell you that we've put in place a measure that will allow us to return those revenues to the province.
So you are saying you're actively pursuing a sexist carbon tax?
No, I'm not.
So then why haven't you done a gender-based analysis for it?
I can just repeat what I've said, and that is, of course, that we put in place carbon pricing that will
enable
us to have a long-term positive environmental impact.
I know there's a lot of moms that are filling up their cars right now at like $1.70 a tank, and they're going, this doesn't seem like it's gender-based. So will you commit to doing a gender-based analysis of the carbon tax? 10 seconds, Minister.
We will commit to continuing with an approach that will allow us to price what we don't want, which
Code
is
for
pollution.
no.
And that will help us with the environment in the long term.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I think if you repeat something long enough, eventually they make you give up.
I'm flabbergasted. There's no mechanism that would force a minister to either A, answer a question, or B, just answer the question. Like, I don't like. I listen to the. I listen to you guys when I
fries your brain, right?
And it's like we understand you're stuck. You're a broken record. You can't say anything except for what Trudeau has put in your ear and told you this is the only thing you're allowed to say. We understand that, but do none of you have the balls to stand up and say, "Hey, excuse me, this is all I've been allowed to tell you, and that's it"? Like, at least say that.
I'll repeat again.
Yeah, it's like, honestly, you're not answering the question. Why are you wasting everybody's time? Just go home.
Yeah. I'll repeat again that the carbon tax is a dollar figure that we are placing on carbon.
But I like at the very beginning,
nothing related to the question.
Yeah, at the very beginning when he points out, he says like, "I have to go," kind of thing. It's just like, and he's sitting there and she keeps asking the same question again and again. And he's just he's just going, "Oh, my French fries are getting cold."
No, I'm not certain on this, but I believe there's a limit as to how many times you can ask the same question. And I think that's why you'll hear her say, I'll reword the question. Like, I'll ask it a different way. Because I think you can only, there's no limit as to how many times you can not answer a question.
But that just highlights
how many times they can ask
that.
it.
That highlights Benny's problem is again, you aren't made to answer the question. That question, that answer was not acceptable in any way, shape, or form, and they can't make him answer the question. And so, but there's a limit to how many times you can answer the question. Ask the question
So there's some important distinctions. This is not actually something that happened during question period, wherein Marty is correct. This is something that happened in committee, and committee is only slated to run for a certain length of time.
It boggles my mind. Like, why even bother saying anything related to the topic at hand? Why not just say ketchup
mustard
for 10 minutes and then
because he's more of a French fry guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, ketchup and vinegar maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you think of the wage
curds and gravy, come on.
Sorry.
Whoa.
Gravy,
That's
the
cultural
curds.
appropriation.
But think of the
good, right, Gavin? Right.
Yeah, think of the wage of every minister in that committee that was going on at the same time. And I guess they're probably all salary at that point, but think of the operating cost of having them sit there and be ineffective for that amount of time.
They're all salary, but they all get paid extra for being in committee.
Yeah, you're right. And Trudeau can take that away from you to punish you if you don't vote the way he likes.
Yeah, and
if you answer the question, you lose your job.
Yeah. So I think this is all time that should have been better spent helping veterans write resumes. They could have broken off an MP, paired an MP with a veteran, and they could have worked on the resumes and stuff.
No, that would imply that the MPs know how to write resumes.
Yeah, I would rather we had MPs that were veterans.
They're in government, so they never
had to apply for a job in his life.
I don't know. Have you seen his wife? French fries are apparently not a forgiving line of work.
No,
I enjoy.
I've not seen his wife, so I guess maybe I'd laugh if I had.
It appalls me that they can stand there in Parliament and where they claim they're answerable to the Canadian public, and when
the most transparent government.
Just ask simple questions.
Transparent government.
And it's not even like, okay, politicians, they lie, that's fine. But they're not even lying. They're just ignoring the question.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, like, and this is the Liberal government has done this since the day they took office. They've just flat out just not answered the questions and then said that they were. And they've done this with pretty well everything. You know, they've raised the taxes on the middle class and then just said that they haven't, that they've lowered it.
Yeah.
Because if you keep repeating a lie long enough, eventually it becomes truth, right? This is
So
1984.
We are starting to see the CBC right. I wouldn't even say, negative articles on them, but starting to question some of the things. And I just it's gonna be a matter of time before there's a bill coming out that's gonna give CBC an extra, $20 million, and then it's gonna go to all positive liberal stuff again.
Well, they gotta at least appear a little bit to be, even-handed before an election. What am I saying? No, they don't.
But so here's the question: how many Canadians do you think watch Question Period?
6. 2 of them are on the panel.
Yes.
So they can basically, CBC can basically report whatever they want, and nobody is the wiser because nobody's watching the actual raw footage to make the decision for themselves and realize that the CBC is lying.
Yeah, I just I googled a Google image Nancy McCain, Bill Morneau's wife. Yeah, she looks like a young Kathleen Wynne.
Does that mean there's more ivory in the reserves?
No, not near as much ivory, but white gold. The potatoes.
The potatoes. Amazing. Let's oh, hey Tim. Who's your favorite MP?
Oh, it's got to be Michelle Rempel.
I was hoping you were going to say Ralph Goodale.
No, just kidding. It's Ralph Goodale.
There you go.
I see him when there's terrible news and when there's when people are talking about shootings and terrorist incidences, and you can see Ralph Goodale chewing gum, like he's got someplace to go in the background. It just gives me a sense of calm to see our public safety minister out there chewing away in an interview,
making us safer.
Yeah.
So let's do another one. This one's got some good ale in it for you. Another CBC article. Canada's government is clearly uninterested in finding innovative solutions to gun violence.
See, I
want to start with this opinion piece.
Yeah.
And Angela Wright is actually not an opinion columnist for the CBC. She's a reporter. So I'm not entirely sure why she's writing opinion pieces.
See,
because
first of all,
the editors wouldn't allow it in in the normal copy.
But
it probably gives her more leeway to say things.
I realize that, but as she's supposed to be someone who is an actual writer and a professional in the public affairs sector, you would think that she would write things that were somewhat based in reality.
And what's interesting is her name is actually Michelle Wright.
No, her name is Angela Wright.
Angela Wright. You're right.
Yes, she's right. I'm Andrew. But in any event,
and speaking of names, I got to take issue again. I think we've got to get an order in Parliament to change Ralph's last name, like Good Ale.
Yeah.
He is neither of these things.
It's inappropriate.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Terrible Lager might be a better name.
Well, that's I guess it doesn't matter. We don't have a softwood lumber industry anymore. So yeah, Terrible Lager is probably acceptable.
Mediocre Pilsner.
Yeah.
Mediocre Pilsner.
But
that sums up Canadian politicians, yes.
But it's just funny. I was going through the back catalog listening to some of the old shows, and remember where there was the one photographer who took the Guns and Gang picture. His name was Peter Powers. Oh, we gotta anyway. Angela Wright. Angela Wright wrote what? Angela
Wright wrote, and that was basically the opinion is that the federal government is not doing enough to curb gun violence. And then there's all of the nonsense around the new Bill C-71. But they've decided, or I guess the writer in this article has decided, that rather than addressing criminal use of firearms, they're going to address all kinds of violence with firearms, because we're not doing enough for victims of shootings, which are, again, mostly gang-related violent crime, victims of suicide, which is basically a round error in Stats Canada, victims of domestic violence, which, again, when we're talking about guns in Canada, effectively a rounding error, and a new one that I have not seen them include before, police use of force against criminals.
Is this like assault gloves, or?
That's probably,
I guess,
a bleeding in from the South, where they really publicized under the Obama administration the amount of black people being shot by police, irrelevant of
100%,
irrelevant of what they actually did or didn't do, or the numbers and stats supporting the fact that whites are actually supposedly shot more by cops than black people, but whatever.
So you're absolutely right in that she references in the article, Chicago-based Cure Violence is one example of a smarter approach. The program employs ex-offenders instead of police officers to intervene and de-escalate potentially fatal conflicts in communities. Because that's what I want when I call 911, is a former MS-13 member to show up and not a cop. That's a great plan. Let's look to Chicago as the shining beacon of how to run a community.
Yeah, for a second there, I was like, oh, maybe they're trying to do like a preemptive thing where they bring ex-gang members and like talk to youth and whatnot. But if what you just described is really their plan, it's no surprise that the death rate in Chicago hasn't gone down ever.
I mean, to me, it'd be like a bunch of other suicidal individuals on a bridge going jump, 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 jump.
I did it and survived.
Yeah, the way that they break this down and introducing this new stat, which I found just fascinating, going back to the year 2000, almost 20 years ago, in Canada, there are on average 27 police fatal shootings in Canada every year. And on average, 70% of those individuals are victims of some sort of mental health or substance abuse issue. So crazy people committing violent crimes get shot by cops.
Whoa, they lump mental health issues and people who are doing drugs, which is an illegal action in Canada. So basically criminal. They're lumping those two people together.
Absolutely. And on average, they get shot 20 times a year. Then there's 10 other people that are not doing those two things that are getting shot every year. I'm curious what the data is like for anything prior to 2000, because it seems very odd to me that they decided to go to the year 2000. That makes me think that they're trying to manipulate the figures in some way.
And 27 people over the entire Canada for 365 days a year. Plus, if you look at the amount of violent crime done in the country, if that's anything more than 27, and let's say cops do show up from time to time at the appropriate time, I would expect that number to be around 27. When criminals want to do criminal acts out of intent on committing harm, sometimes deadly force is necessary. So the number itself shouldn't be shocking. And the fact that you have people with mental health or substance abuse, I'm sorry, if you are a threat, you're still a threat. I don't know the situation 100%, but just spouting the numbers, they don't really scare me. And I don't know why they're scaring these people.
Well, I think it's the same reason that the illegal gun owners scare these people. They're not grounded in reality, right? Like they want to involve former gang members, violent offenders, whatever, in the consultation progress, because despite the fact that Goodale has a firearms advisory committee, that committee is only mandated to meet at minimum once per year, and their discussions are secret. So they want communities to be more involved, and somehow community means former violent offenders. I don't understand this ex-offender thing. You're not an ex-offender. You offended.
Wait, Andrew, I don't know if we really can honestly call it the firearms advisory committee. Like, Actually, you know what? They are advising on firearms, so I guess they did earn that title, but they don't really know much in terms of firearms.
No, they know nothing.
What's your comment about it being in secret? It's subject to access to information requests.
Not according to the author of this article that clearly does not live in the same reality as you and I.
Also, if you've ever seen one of Tracy's requests for that information, I'm pretty sure most of it's heavily redacted.
I mean, I have seen... I mean, I've gone through at least what's been returned to her. And yes, some of it is redacted, but... I don't know, I mean, it is subject to access to information request. So I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say that it's necessarily secret. Where's that in this article? I missed that.
It's second to the last paragraph. Third to the last paragraph. The point that I am trying to illustrate with this, though, is that the author of this article and other articles like this one are not grounded in reality. They don't understand how violent crime or gun crime works in this country. They don't understand policing in this country. And they don't understand the existing measures that have been put in our place with our government. As much as I disagree with the Firearms Committee, the author of this article doesn't understand how the current Firearms Advisory Committee operates. So I propose that she has no input into changing that until she understands the current system. Then she may propose changes.
So, Andrew, I think sorry for jumping in and going back to the secret thing. I think the reason she wrote that in, because they just linked to the page for the committee, is that under communications, no member other than the chair or the vice chair, when acting in the chair's capacity, may speak to the media on behalf of the committee.
It's entirely possible that that's why they think it's secret, but
that's why they're saying
the conversations the committee have are not.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not verboten to discuss what happens at committee.
No, and the results and their findings are public information.
But this is the kind of thing where if someone just says something and you don't question it or look at it at all, and you just take it on and you parrot it and go, oh, like, this many people in Canada and gun violence is bad and blah, blah, blah. But this is someone, their education, they have a master's in history from the University of Iowa. And they're sitting there, like, the article makes no sense. She's referencing like a very violent city in the States, which is like completely different than Canada. And the fact that that city itself has about the same homicide rate as the entirety of Canada. So, like, don't tell us we should be like Chicago and do this.
If anything, we should be not like Chicago.
Or if
Chicago is a benchmark of things that you should not aim to be like.
If you really want to be like Chicago, we could introduce concealed carry and see a dip in our crime for a couple of months. With that.
Now, I'm curious how long she's been a PAL holder.
I'm going to say not at all, because there's a lot of information in this. Like, for example, talking about whether or not doctors should be able to proactively take steps to prevent at-risk suicidal teenagers from access to firearms, even if it's not their own gun, to work with families to find ways to restrict access to those guns.
Yeah,
well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm pretty sure that when I read the Firearms Act, it was very clear that I had to keep my guns locked up and away from unauthorized users, including my unlicensed children.
Exactly, yeah.
Hang on a second. So you're saying that she's writing an article discussing a topic that she hasn't even gone through the basic steps of understanding, like how they're acquired and any of the rules surrounding them?
Basically, what I'm saying is she is eligible to run. She's eligible to run for safety minister on this platform in the next election.
I don't blame her for
writing, but she deserves a seat on the Firearms Advisory Council.
I feel like
clearly she's an expert.
This is how it's an opinion piece, because opinions can't be wrong, and opinions don't
sure they can. Look at this one.
Wait, and opinions don't have to actually contain any facts, so it fits. There's no facts.
New to the podcast.
There's no fact. Well, okay, according to their ideology here.
Wait, the same CBC?
Yes. Where everyone's opinion matters, right? So she has an opinion. It's in the opinion section. It's devoid of fact, but that's okay. It's an opinion. So this is how they publish this stuff.
My opinion is this article shouldn't have been published. This opinion piece.
Well,
Yeah.
I have good news. I happen to have I have something for her for when she calls 911. Those are the individuals that she can expect to be showing up to her next 911 call.
And good news to Gavin. This will relieve him a little bit. Looking at the picture of Angela Wright, I think we got a little more ivory in the old coffers there.
Do we, though?
I mean, we sold off all of our gold reserves, so we've got to replenish it with something valuable.
Let's do another gun one from the CBC. Got another article from, this one's a little bit older, April the 30th. These are not hunting rifles. RCMP West of Edmonton sees arsenal of dangerous firearms. A 3-month investigation leads to charges against 2 men. Things that they seized in the dangerous arsenal include an AR-15 style rifle fitted with a suppressor and 100-round drum magazine. $10,000 in cash, a stolen truck, a stolen holiday trailer. I think they mean like an RV, like one of those tow behind jobs. An ATV, 18 grams of coke, 75.5 grams of meth, 21 liters of GHB. I don't know who they're going on date rapes with, but man, Rosie O'Donnell must need a lot.
Come on,
21 liters of GHB. Jesus. That's a lot of roofies.
They're not naming the individuals?
They are not naming the individuals. I would hazard a guess it's because of the diverse upbringing of those individuals.
I was just saying, if they're in possession of stolen ATVs in Edmonton.
Yeah, I have some guesses.
Yep.
So the things that they have pictured, I am not able to locate in the images that the RCMP released. The drum magazine,
it's there.
Nor the AR-15. I am able to find an AR-15 style rifle in that there's a JR carbine.
There's 2 drum mags in the picture with the dude standing behind a podium.
Yeah, and
on
it
the
made
side of the table.
And it
in the
like,
plastic baggies. Okay.
And
so there's a double drum and a single drum.
Yeah, the
double drum.
In between the double drum and the single drum, if you look closely, that could be the forward assisting of an AR-15.
Do you think that's an AR-15?
I think so. But
the obvious AR-15 looking thing with a suppressor is definitely a JR carbine.
Right.
I think you're right. There's a forward assist there. But if you look also
at the other thing with a suppressor looks a hell of a lot like a MAC-10.
Yeah, the double drum seems to have
the pistol looks like a MAC-10.
Yeah. The double drum seems to have rounds loaded in it in the Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
So what I'm taking from this is that criminals don't seem to follow laws. Like, you can't just be in possession of like 100 grams of meth. That's not allowed.
How much
can't
is
just go
allowed?
around stealing people's F-150s. That's not allowed. You can't just go around possessing illegal suppressors. Like, there are so many different crimes being committed in this.
I just want to point out.
I don't know why the CBC is. Well, actually, I do know why. I was being facetious as to why the CBC is not, or why the CBC is focusing on the firearms and not the rest of the things that they are illegally in possession of. Sorry, go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah.
It's Benny, but the only reason why these the rifles may or may not be for hunting is because they say so.
That's what I was going to go with.
Seeing as in the States you can hunt with a pistol, nothing is actually not appropriate for hunting, assuming you're hunting the right size game. Whether it be an AR-15 or a MAC-10.
Yeah, like, you don't get to prohibit me from hunting with these, and then say they're not valid because you can't hunt with them.
Yeah,
I should very much like to know what I could hunt with a MAC-10, because I think that might be a reason I would take up hunting.
Well, anything you could take down with a 9mm. And
I could think of a few things you could hunt with a MAC-10, but it may not be legal.
Gophers would definitely be fun.
Oh, I would totally go for hunt with a MAC-10. That sounds amazing.
But it is legal in Canada to hunt with a handgun, so long as it's an antique status handgun.
No, so it's not a handgun anymore at that point.
According to the Firearms Act or the or hunting regs? Because I was more talking about the hunting regs.
There is nothing in the hunting regs in at least in Ontario that say you you can't hunt with a handgun as long as it meets the caliber restrictions that may be in place. You can legally hunt with a handgun so long as it's an antique status handgun.
This is true. I think Gavin's found a loophole.
I would agree. I don't think there's anything in the hunting regs that I could think of.
Yeah, they do not specifically
minus some of the
prohibit.
larger games that have caliber restrictions,
That
but
seems
like,
correct.
things like gophers, you should be fine.
And also, like there seems to be a CZ858 in there, which is like I've hunted deer with my VZ58. So
yeah, I feel like a 7.62 by 3.9 would kill a deer just fine.
I'm hoping that's a VZ, just because, yeah. But I guess the only crime here being committed with these firearms is possession of them. So, yeah, is that really a firearms offense?
I agree with you. And if these guns haven't, like, they've had these in the possession and no one's been harmed by them, but based on everything else that surrounds these firearms, it's probably good thing that they're taken from these guys and that they're out of these guys' hands.
Yeah, I feel like these guys didn't have pals and didn't acquire these in illegal mean, since they had prohibited devices.
I'm just looking at the pure like statistical value of this, where people are going to say, "Oh, look, someone who was committed with a crime or did commit a crime while using a VZ58 or CZ, whatever it is, or an AR-15."
They actually have one of each.
Oh, really?
Looking, the one on the right with the shorter barrel appears to be a VZ, where the one on the left is definitely an 8.58.
Yeah, the 8.58 is obviously an 8.58.
I'm not.
And look at
I can't tell them apart either.
Yeah,
I see a rivet. There's still a rivet in the goddamn magazine.
In one of the magazines.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, the MAC-10 is not.
Well, and that's the thing that makes me think that this is maybe like a little bit of drug crime going on, and they got some gats to show that they're homeboys, that they're tough.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they're not in muddy girl camouflage. I thought that was the ultimate gangbanger status symbol, or is that only in BC?
Well, maybe they haven't reached that status yet.
Oh, so they're not ultimate gangbangers. They're just like garden variety gangbangers.
Yeah.
Well, they're on their way. They're working to it, right?
Oh.
They do have more suppressors than I have, and
so
that kind of makes me sad.
I'm looking at the table here, and the gun at the very front of the table is the most dangerous of all. A SAP 6.
Is that a SAP 6?
That's totally a Turkish shotgun. Turkish shotgun of death.
Well, they got another Turkish one
assembly
at the back. The back.
Yeah, they got one of those Uzcons,
or whichever one comes in those nice cases.
Yeah, I don't know which one comes in the case. It looks like an Uzcon. It's the mag-fed Turkish ridiculous AR-looking shotgun.
Yeah,
that
the quote. Yeah.
Too bad they didn't get that one in pink.
Yeah, the double drum, for anyone that doesn't know, is twice as deadly as the single drum magazine.
But I like the way he tied the two comments together. These are not hunting rifles. In the hands of criminals, these weapons serve no legitimate purpose in our society.
It's funny that I feel that way about criminals. They serve no legitimate purpose, and they should probably be physically removed via helicopter.
It's like they're implying that if you don't have a gun to hunt, then it has no legitimate purpose in our society. But in the hands of criminals.
So,
yeah.
Out of curiosity, with the amount of shooters we have in this podcast, does anybody in the photo of the ammo, does anybody recognize the bricks on the right?
No.
Looks like inexpensive ammo that I don't know about.
It does look inexpensive, doesn't it?
I have a couple of those at home. I think they're like a Gula from like the 90s.
Oh, old
like just the plate. Okay. You're talking about like the plain red, right?
Yeah, the
shrink
pink,
wrap.
Like,
yeah. So I don't know about the shrink wrap, but the red part, like an uncle of mine like pulled out some ammo that he bought in Toronto before a store closed, and yeah, they use that similar kind of casing for the bullets.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I don't recognize that, and it looks like some sort of discount ammo. Need to
find out.
Contact these guys and find out what their source is, because cheap ammo is cheap ammo, right?
I want to know where you get all that GBH for no reason at all.
And let's be honest here, considering like when you look at the amount of firearms they have here, their ammo cache is
weak.
Like, yeah, terribly weak.
You're assuming their mags are empty.
Well, I am not assuming that
even
because one of them was charged with possession of a loaded prohibited firearm, so they had something in it.
Yeah,
but
like
they've got
it looks like that double drum mag. It looks like you see the rounds.
Yeah, like I don't see 7.62. I don't see 12 gauge. I don't like. They've got a lot more guns than they've got ammo.
Yeah, a bunch of 9.
Well, it's probably because they follow the New York principle of
looks like some 5.56. Oh, yeah.
You just drop it.
It looks like there's about 600 rounds of 9mm here, and then what do you say? 150, maybe 200 rounds of 223.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's not a lot of ammo.
Yeah, that's
not for the amount of guns they have.
Those are amateur numbers. They need to bump those up.
Also, maybe don't get caught by the police, but you know.
Yeah.
Just saying. Let's do another one from CBC. The Trudeau family is getting its meals delivered from 24 Sussex to Rideau Cottage. So everyone will remember, we talked about this. Trudeau refused to move into the official residence of the Prime Minister, 24 Sussex Drive in Ottawa. Instead, due to the decrepit state that 24 Sussex Drive is kept in, remembering that it was built in the 1860s and has not been upgraded in about 50 years. Actually, I think the last major upgrade was when Trudeau the Senior put in a pool.
Yep.
They've decided that they're going to live at Rideau Cottage, which is also managed by another government agency in Ottawa. It's the National Capital Region Historic something or other that looks after all the properties there in the Rideau area, including the official residence. For some reason, all of the meals are being prepared at 24 Sussex and then being carted down 1.5 kilometers to Rideau Cottage.
Yeah, it's it's not fit to live in, but to cook all my food in, it's totally okay.
We have the finance minister and the prime minister, for that matter, in the House saying that Canadians need to do what they can to combat climate change. We're introducing a federally revenue neutral carbon tax tool to fight climate change. We're going to drive the food 1.5 kilometers 3 times a day for meals.
But the thing is, like he has 2 nannies. He has the chef. Does Sophie have a staff?
Yes.
I believe Sophie has a small staff. I think it's 2 or 3 people, and we've talked about it in the past. I know she has like an event coordinator type person.
Increase the number of people.
But this is the kind of thing, like, Trudeau's kind of been a little kooky with chefs. Like, if his chef, I could totally see him having a chef that is the best. It's amazing. He's an amazing chef, and he refuses to cook in this kitchen at the cottage. You know, he wants to cook at this one. Because, like remember, he was in India, and he had a freaking Indian chef because they wanted Indian food. So he had an Indian chef flown from BC to India. Don't forget that. Like, this is not...
Yeah, he brought a Canadian. He flew a Canadian into India to cook him Indian food.
Yeah.
Well, you want to make sure you get the authentic experience when you travel abroad. I'm just baffled by this. Like, I don't understand these people. Like, where's my button? I don't even know what to do with this. It just makes me sad that they're...
Okay, so I'm gonna take the defense here. It's being cooked by a chef that's paid regardless of where he cooks it. It's being brought from the one residence to another by a person who's on salary and is being paid regardless of whatever he's doing. Like, he's just a page for Trudeau. So it's not really costing us any extra.
No, it's not costing us any extra.
A small amount of transportation.
I'm not super concerned about the cost. It's I
just don't get the why.
Yeah, the thing that I take exception to is that this is not normally acceptable behavior. Like, no one, who do you know has food brought from their one house to their other house? This is not a thing that happens.
Right, but but nowhere in anything has I seen it explained why the chef is cooking it there and they're currying it over here. Like they're making a big deal about that this is happening, but no one has said.
To the
why.
CBC's credit, they did ask, and the Prime Minister's office failed to answer the question.
Maybe they should ask them more times.
But that's
to work.
Yeah, but keep in mind, like, remember, this is our Prime Minister. Like, he would have spent time at that address at 24 Sussex as he was a child. Then
I could argue he still is.
Yeah. And the caption of the photo says Prime Minister Trudeau says it is unlikely he'll ever return to 24 Sussex Drive. So I think he really has like a psychological issue or something.
I wonder if it's
bothering him.
I want to do it in the. Never mind. I can't believe that up.
It's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in the same room Mick Jagger was ever in either.
Yeah, maybe you can't get the stink of the Rolling Stones out of the old stone house.
Well, I don't know. You would think that since 24 Sussex is so drafty, it would have like aired out by now.
I don't know. The smell of Castro cigars is probably lingering.
It's funny that they'll spend tons of money on themselves in like weird ways, but they wouldn't spend the money on 24 Sussex. That they're like, oh, you know what? We're not going to spend the money on this one.
Well, and I kind of see the argument with that because no one wants the optics of being the prime minister that spends millions of dollars renovating the house that you live in, right? Because like that's doesn't matter who the prime minister is. That's not good optics.
Have you looked what they've done in the past term? Like, where have they not spent money?
Have you listened to the show we do it every Monday night where I complain about what they do? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and they've gotten away with all of it. They can get away with this.
I get your point, Benny. I really do, and I mean it's $10 million that they think it's going to cost to fix 24 Sussex, like to get it up to current standards. It probably wouldn't have cost that much if somebody would have done a little bit more preventative maintenance over the last 50 years, because they've not been doing preventative maintenance. Or they've not been doing very much. They spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars fixing little fiddly things all the time, but they're not really doing anything like preventative maintenance. Okay, so they got a leak, so they fix that one leak, but they're not like, nobody's talking about like fixing all of the plumbing so it doesn't leak at all anymore. Yeah. Nobody's talking about like fixing the roof so the roof doesn't leak. They're talking about, well, it leaked in this one spot, so we went in and we fixed that one thing, right?
Yeah.
So going in to overhaul that will be expensive, and I understand that. And $10 million is kind of a lot to overhaul a building, but you know what? Spending $2 million to overhaul the security system at the cottage, I think that money could have been better spent.
Well, it's like it says a report for 2016-2017 showed that the 24 Sussex Drive racked up like a $345,000 maintenance costs for mold inspections, elevator maintenance, grounds repair, yearly safety inspections, weekly pool maintenance, pest control, and a bad odor in the kitchen. Right,
and that's what
we're talking. Over a third of $1 million in 2 years. For like someone to go around.
Here's the better thing. During that time frame, Rideau Cottage experienced more than $827,000 in improvements. About half of that bill was spent on an item where a service has been redacted.
Right, and this is the part that seems super sketchy: is why are we spending a bunch of money?
So we spent $400,000 on an item or service at Rideau Cottage that was redacted.
Right.
What
so
could possibly be like spent on maintenance at the building that is like national security issue that it has to be redacted from public?
That's what I mean. Like
bomb shelter.
That's what I mean. If there was a fallout shelter or a panic room built there, like if they built one there at that cottage, everyone would just say, well, of course that makes sense to have a bomb shelter or a panic room or whatever you want to call it. By like we would just go, well, that's the cost. But the fact that it's redacted, that's like annoying.
Well, for a prime minister that campaigned on transparency, this does not seem very transparent.
And also,
was,
I feel like those items would have
like an additional apartment for his wife's boyfriend to live in.
But how un-Canadian of you, Andrew, to even look? Like, you're supposed to just listen to the words and be happy.
I know, and I'm so bad at it. But let's do something else.
Why would you even know what he does? Why are you even looking at that?
Because he's such great hair.
Yeah.
How else are you going to pay attention to the hair?
I think honestly, at this point, we just need more information. There's just not there's no explanation as to why the food's being cooked one place, driven over here.
I would like transparency from my government. That's all I'm asking for. Just give me transparency from my government.
I wonder if the oil in that deep fryer is older, and so they want to get the fries to have like that really nice old oil taste.
Maybe
those McCain fries.
Yeah.
Let's do another one. I can't tell. Did that play?
No.
Nothing played. I don't know. You're just.
Damn it. My drops are still kind of wonky. I was really trying to play Hail to the Chief because I have a Trump story. So I'm probably not fixing that in post. Everyone will just have to imagine that I actually got the drop to work and it played Hail to the Chief.
Majestic.
I try. Trudeau government should help those hit by Trump tax, MPs. Morneau's office says government is analyzing the impact of Trump's tax. And I have a button for this.
That worked.
A conservative MP brought this up. Conservative revenue critic Pat Kelly called on the government to protect interests of those being hit by Trump's tax reform, many of whom have Canadian as well as U.S. citizenship. Since when did the conservative revenue critic start doing this? Like, I'm so confused about this article. So Trump has changed the tax policies in the United States. This has impacted people who have businesses in both Canada and the U.S. because the American tax system thought that multinational corporations were not paying all of the taxes into the U.S. that they should be by reallocating the finances to foreign subsidiaries. Apparently, this is impacting a number of Canadian business owners who have dual citizenship and own corporations in one or both countries. Why are the conservatives doing this? And why are the liberals seriously entertaining this idea?
Agreed. This sounds very much like, oh no, the U.S. government's doing something to someone. Let's give them $10 million.
Well, yeah, this is certainly an opportunity for Trudeau to signal against, to his supporters who are generally anti-Trump. So,
right. So,
these are Trump victims. We have to help them.
Not immediately on board with this, even though there's super signally anti-Trump stuff is a distinct possibility. The Liberal government is considering what they're going to do, which may be nothing. And the conservative minority is trying to convince the government to, I don't know what the right word is, bail out the richest group of Canadians, people that own multinational corporations and hold dual citizenships.
Well, especially when this is an MP from Calgary. So I just immediately there could be some oil money.
Yeah, I feel like there could be some oil money and possibly some French fry money involved in this. Because why would Morneau be entertaining this idea in all seriousness?
Well, I can think of one small business, or I assume there's a small business that is in our industry that.
No, Ragnarok Tactical does not have a U.S. subsidiary.
No, but for example, Aztec Armory or Iron Guns, any of those companies that bring firearms over the border for individuals, those I think would fit in this category, would they not? Again, I'm not pro this. I think this is silly, but I do think this will affect small business.
But you watch, this will be the one thing the Liberals actually pick up and run with that the opposition mentions.
Well, and that's kind of what concerns me is like, I'm sure Benny is not wrong, and I am sure that there are some small businesses that will be impacted by this, but this is a risk that you take by doing business in other countries. This is not like if you go to China and open a manufacturing plant, the Chinese government is like, nah, it's our factory now. Like, you don't get your money back from the government of the country in which you live. The Chinese just own your factory now, and this is a thing that has happened in the past. So I'm not sure why the U.S. changing their tax law is something that I should have to pay other business owners of any size, whether they're a small business or whether they really are the part of the 1%. I don't see why I should be using my tax dollars to subsidize them.
Agreed. Now imagine we can apply this to ITAR restrictions or license fees.
I don't think it works that way. But I wish it did.
I know it's not going to. I think this is wrong. There's no reason why one government should pay citizens of another government because they're being taxed accordingly. And there's no reason why it should pay its own citizens for being taxed by another government because they're in that government's jurisdiction.
Yeah, like if you don't like the U.S. tax law, don't do business in the U.S. I don't understand. Where's my button? Nobody else? Okay, let's do another one. We got something from the National Post. This one will be fun. Well, not really, but National Post. Canada will soon have more illegal border crossers than Syrian refugees.
Well, there's a saying: "What you allow is what will continue."
Yeah. So this is amazing. There's been 2,000 illegal border crossings.
Migration. Is that the term we're using?
Yes, and they do talk about the irregular migration further down in the article, but they're
certainly not refugees. I'll tell you that much.
I wonder if they'd let Mexicans over the southern border in the States if they said they're just going to keep running north. Like, they can cross the border legally. They're only going to be there for a month, less than that, however long it takes to walk to the north border. And then, getting across the northern border is so much easier than, getting across the southern one.
Our fence is much smaller.
Yeah, exactly. Plus,
the RCMP will carry your bags.
Exactly. So,
the RCMP is now setting up temporary unofficial police stations along the U.S.-Quebec border because they need so many RCMP officers to deal with people that are trying to cross at not actual border crossings, and they're directing them to actual ports of entry. But they've also put up signs that says it's illegal to cross the border at things that aren't actual ports of entry, and that you'll be arrested and detained if you choose to cross at the illegal crossing points.
I feel like these people are going for three hots and a cot. I don't think that's a deterrent.
Well, okay, so here's a fun fact. Once you've been arrested, if you apply for asylum status, they'll drop the charges because you're now a refugee.
Oh, Jesus. But that's like I always said, like right off the bat.
So why are we even arresting them?
Yeah.
Yeah, just more paperwork at that point.
I did want to bring up one thing in this. Marty has talked before about the Safe Third Countries Act.
Yes.
Yes. They the National Post points out what might be a loophole in the Safe Third Countries Act. So the Safe Third Countries Act, the problem that they're finding is that the refugee claim must be made at a port of entry. So if someone enters Canada illegally through a not port of entry and then produces an asylum claim, the Safe Third Country Act may not apply.
Yep.
Wow.
Yet.
Wow.
Now here's the question. We have actual Canadian Border Services vans sitting on these random back roads in Quebec processing people.
So does that make it port of entry? Because in my mind, it kind of does.
It either makes it a port of entry, or if not, then their power they have no power there. So everything that they've done is invalid. They either have no jurisdiction there, in which case anything that they've done is not valid, or it's a valid port of entry, and then they must follow the Safe Third Country Act. Take your pick.
I like that they've drawn themselves into a corner.
I don't know about that. I feel like the border, whether it's a port or not, and then this is just maybe me missing the terminology here, but anywhere along the border, if that's where they'd have jurisdiction. But then again, anywhere along the border would technically, if you can cross it, as a port, no?
No. So CBSA's power is limited to specific ports of entry.
Okay, fine.
Anywhere
okay.
In between is RCMP.
I see. Fine. In which case,
the
right.
bellhops.
You're right. No. I see where you're coming from now. It makes sense. Either they have jurisdiction there, in which case they should, it's a port of entry, and these guys should be denied status, sent back wherever they're coming from, or the CBSA should not be working there, according to their mandate, I guess.
That's my understanding, at least.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does sadden me that we now have more people illegally, or I guess irregularly, crossing the border and then making asylum claims than we have actually presenting themselves at a port of entry and making an asylum claim.
But when you say more people, like we're talking like a third of the population of Guelph.
I don't know what the population of Guelph is off the top of my head, but
I checked. It's close enough.
Okay. All right. Last year, the Immigration Refugee Board received 18,000 claims from irregular border crossers claiming asylum after having already illegally entered the country. Yay.
That was all in a couple of months at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's not like a full year of that. That was like
we're on track for 2018 to drastically surpass that number. I think I read something to the effect that in the first, I think year to date 2018, we've exceeded 5,000 people already, something like that.
Yeah, but like whenever people talk immigrants, what does everyone love about immigrants? The food. I say we get some of those immigrants and we get them cooking at Rideau Cottage.
Yeah.
No. You're missing the whole point of being part of the ruling class. You have a nice thick layer of plebes between you and the people you're trying to help.
It's a separation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Never shall the twain, interchange or meet or anything like that. No. You got to keep separate. That's why you can charge, what was it, $1,000 a plate? Or probably off by a lot. For your charity dinners?
I think it was 15 is the 100.
Yeah, no, I thought it was
more. I think 1,000 if you were a student or something like that.
Yeah, because he understands
a minority that's disabled and left-handed.
Can you imagine the size of that plate of craft dinner? What would $1,000 of craft dinner look like for a student?
It would have the fanciest ketchup, just Dijon ketchup. We'd put a refrigerator.
The next podcast or charity event and find out for lunch. $1,000 for the mac and cheese.
I kind of want $1,000 worth of mac and cheese.
Are we talking like retail cost or like, wholesale?
Oh no, for $1,000, we should figure out a way to do this wholesale. Hey, I have an HST number. Let's become a grocery store. It'll be fun.
Get your canned soups here.
I'm the food merchant now. All right. Petitions, go to oneclearvoice.ca, sign the petition. Or that's not the thing you sign. Print the thing out, print out. I don't know how many we're up to now.
Do whatever whatever number they're at. Do that.
Do that.
And then the next one, and then next one, and the next one.
Go to the government website. Go sign E1608, which is unfortunately very stagnant now. It's 75,000. A couple weeks ago, it was 70,000. It's not really moving. So tell your friends, tell your family. I don't know. Get your dog an email account. I don't know if your dog's able to actually sign this. I feel like that might be a violation of the terms of service. The views and opinions of the host on Canadian Patriot Podcast do not constitute legal advice. Remember, this is strictly an entertainment program. But go sign the petition.
To our listeners in Nunavut, you guys have your work cut out for you. We got to get that number above 45.
Yeah, I know there's more than 45 people in Nunavut. There's got to be at least 50.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but do they have internet?
They don't need
Yes.
internet. They just need someone else to have internet.
They got
That's right.
Aurora Borealis, man.
If you're in Nunavut, call me and I'll fill out the paperwork for you.
Yeah. Finish running from the
I
polar
use
bear.
pigeons,
fill out
but
the
like
use
it's pretty
petition.
cold up there for them. What?
Well, you just got to defrost them first.
Or you use the dog teams to move your mail around. Sorry, was
All
that
right,
cultural
let's-
appropriation?
I'll allow
No, it's
it.
their culture. It's fine.
I'll allow
They're
it.
allowed to do that. We're not.
In our
So I have to use
culture,
pigeons.
But are they allowed in the internet then?
yes.
Okay. It's confusing.
Yeah.
The rules are very complicated. I understand. The rules for the charity
When
shoot are
Al
not.
Gore invented the internet, he made it available to everyone.
Oh, good.
Al-
Great man.
No. Charity shoot. Go to the charity shoot. July 5th to the 7th, New Brunswick. Sign up for things if things aren't full. I think the only thing that's not full is the actual charity shoot. All the pre-charity shoot events are full, I think.
But if history is any an indicator, get on a waiting list just in case.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work, badger people. That's what I did.
Yep.
Find Trevor's email and just spam him, and you'll get on to whatever you want to get on.
Yeah,
I'm
you don't have to
sure-
find the email. It's slamfireradio@gmail.com. Because
No, find
sure-
Trevor's personal email.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That's
I
the one
can
you need.
totally. I'm not reading Trevor's personal email on the thing. He'll get mad.
That's the one you need.
Flash mob Trevor, everybody.
I feel like you could find his work email online, though.
Yeah, we won't say it out loud, but just PM us and we'll send it to you that way, so he can't prove it.
I'm pretty sure it's rosiefan69@gmail.com.
Didn't he put his practice score in public practice score info link at one point?
Yes, he did. And everyone messed with my charity shoot because they kept logging in as him and changing all of his registration information. It was very irritating. So don't be like Trevor. Don't give out your usernames and passwords. Upcoming event, True North Tradecraft is doing a covert entry concepts class in Toronto on May 12th and 13th. That's this coming weekend. If you haven't signed up by the time that you're hearing this, what kind of what?
Beer. Sounds like a microbrew.
True North Tradecraft.
Yeah.
No.
But they
Okay.
make beer.
They could make a good ale.
They might make good ale. No rapid fire feedback this week. Send us reviews, iTunes, or feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Because unlike certain lesser podcasts, looking at Slamfire, we bought the domain name and I set up an email server. Because it's the current year, and you can email me, Andrew, at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com.
Yep.
Or if you want to email the rest of the show, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. And if it's witty, I might read it.
Send
Or
your
if you're
cassettes.
insulting, I might read it.
Send in your cassettes.
Yeah, send in your cassette. Have your grandson send in a cassette. All right, I don't got anything else. Let's wrap this up. Gavin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
The best place to find me on the internet is urbex_GTA on Instagram, or you can also find me on the Facebooks or Instagram under Guerrilla Works. Buy some t-shirts. Then go
Marty,
over
where
to-
can everybody find the... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, keep going. It's all good.
Marty, where can everybody find the podcast?
CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Facebook.
That's right, because we bought the domain name. See? It's easy. Even I can do it.
They don't even have slamfireradio.com? They must have that, right?
They're using a Gmail address. I assume that means they don't have anything.
They're not that terrible.
No, they have a website.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, get an email address. Is I guess.
In terms of fact checking this right now.
Yeah.
Benny, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, as mentioned.
Awesome, Benny. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me at bennylewis.ca, or Facebook, bennylewis.ca.
You know what you should have registered? Shalom Fire Radio.
I would probably listen to that. It sounds pretty good.
I would.
A couple of guys kibitzing about 22s.
Can we do that? Can we please do that, and then we can spoof all
That's
of
got to
their
be a thing.
episodes?
That'll be a thing by June 1st, I'll tell you that much. I can guarantee it.
You know, the only problem with this is if we make another podcast, that means we're going to have to do another podcast charity shoot because it'll be our turn again.
No.
That's fine.
You can just partner with someone else and make them do all the work.
But
Benny, what's going on in your life? You wanna form a partnership? I don't want to do another one.
Andrew would have it. He'd host it every Friday night, and then he would always be like, "Sorry to Benny, we didn't want the show tonight." Like, I don't know why. He never misses the show.
He answers the phone on Friday night. I don't know what's going on.
He'd be like, Andrew and two Rod Giltakas, they just never show up.
So it'd just be me kibitzing about 20. I'd probably just be sitting in the microphone the whole time.
He'll be here any minute.
Amazing. Did we ask Benny where we can find you? I don't remember.
Yeah,
We started kibitzing.
.ca.
Right. Okay, good. Tim, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at facebook.com/Tim's Good T-shirts. They're quite good.
Right on. As always, you can find me ragnaroktactical.ca. Get some tourniquets, buy some bandages. I would suggest taking a course, but I don't have a course schedule right now. I know people want me to teach classes. I'm sorry, my day job is really busy, and we have this infant that seems to take up a lot of time. Strongly encourage everyone to have an infant. Super fun. No, his name is not Frank. Well, there's a difference between babysitting at the gun club and looking after my own child. But
Good Ale Vincent.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good middle name. We should do that. I'm gonna hyphenate it. Good Ale. Did I do that? Oh, I have to apologize to Rod Giltaca. We made a Rod Giltaca joke early and I got thrown off. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaca. We couldn't fit him in this evening. With Benny being on, we have a very full panel, and the time change is hard for him. I understand the show happens when he's eating dinner. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.